Hey guys, have you been watching us? I've got the amazing Andy Liu, wellness expert, TV presenter, mum, and everything, basically, superstar from Australia, but she's actually in the US at the moment. And she's got a couple of new books. And I thought I'd bring her on to dive in deep about her experience with wellness, chiropractic, dealing with different patients and people, and dealing with media. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
Thank you, Dr. Stephen. It's so nice to be here with you. I'm in LA, as you said, but I'm from Australia, as you can hear from my Aussie accent. And yes, I'm everything, but aren't we all? So I think the main...
They love an Aussie accent. Like I was going over a few times a year. They just say, they've said to me at seminars, can you just talk? They love our accent. I don't know.
I can talk like them too. If they don't understand me, I just flip the switch and here I am. Anyway, what led me to you, Dr. Stephen, is your amazing ability to communicate and inspire chiropractic and chiropractors. And I loved it when you sent me an email that said, is your new patient ghosting you? And I was just like, hang on a second, this is the hot topic of the month. It's kind of half the reason why I'm here in LA, because I'm teaching people through my books. As you said, I've got 2 new books out. This one's called Where'd They Go, which is all about ghosting culture, bringing light to ghosting culture. And this one here is called Connected, a paradigm shift in how we view health. And it's actually about chiropractic philosophy and wellness. So when you sent that email, I was like, I need to help you guys understand where they go. Did they die? We'll never know.
Well, that's the thing.
How to deal with that in business.
Like people, they ignore their health a lot of the time. They'll even ignore symptoms, even though symptoms are only 5 to 10% of the nervous system. And especially guys, they'll like ignore all the signs and think that we're just going to push on and she'll be right, especially in Australia, as we say. But
well, it's not just symptoms of 5 to 10%. Like in my studies with Nairi Cannon, when I became a qualified chiropractor's assistant, bless her, she's not with us anymore. But when we were taught to be chiropractic educators, it's really important for people to communicate to those who are getting care that only 2 to 10% worth of the nervous system is dedicated to feeling nerves. And, the rest of the nervous system's job is dedicated to function. So what do we take away from that? By the time the person does have the courage to ring up and have that sweaty palms conversation and say, I'm not coming in today, or, I want to cancel, or whatever it is, that we communicate to them, well, hey, did you know that the nervous system is only dedicated to, X amount of nerves? And what we're focused on is the functionality of your healing potential. And so I'd love you to still come in, even though you're feeling okay, or even though you feel like whatever it is, when we educate them with just that little bit of information about how their body works, we empower them with knowledge to start making decisions for themselves that are better and more empowering because they feel like they made the choice instead of us telling them to. But we also educate them on how their body works, which again, they get to take control of their own health once they understand a little bit every day. But you know what, Dr. Stephen, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Pharmaceuticals don't. The companies, we are the only ones that are allowed to and can, with an authority, speak about chiropractic philosophy.
yeah, that's right. I think what's happened over the years, and we've seen this time and time again with different things, is that we give authority over to people other than ourselves. I truly believe that God is within us. Like we are the only person that can, dictate what happens to us to a large degree. And as soon as you hand over that authority to someone, whether it's a priest, a teacher, anyone, a friend or what have you, and you don't take responsibility, you've now lost full control. And that's where I think people just ignore that aspect. And it comes from when we're kids. If we're not taught to be critical thinkers of everyone and everything, and to make that decision based on how we, innately, like our, innate ability or our gut, then we're leading them on a path of potential destruction or absolute heartache, really, in any
Well,
area.
the thing is, the word doctor means teacher, and it comes from a Latin derivative. So I feel, even though I'm not a doctor, but I work with doctors of chiropractic to help them communicate wellness and chiropractic philosophy, I feel like you do, in that it hurts your heart, because where are we doing our job as educators? And it comes back to that, educating and empowerment. Those are the 2 things that are most important to me, so that when I put my head on the pillow at night, I'm like, I did a great job empowering people through education, entertainment, inspiration, and then what is it that they can do to be accountable for it. And at the end of the day, we're all here to love, serve, nurture. But I love what you said about, God is within us, because it's one of the favorite chapters in my book, which is in the chiropractic chapter. So it's incredible because there's a section in here called God, or when did God leave the building? But it's an acronym for grand organized design. And whether you believe in God or whether you believe in, the universe or Allah or Jesus or whatever you want to call it, I call it love, really. But there's something greater than us, that is running us. Now, a lot of chiropractors have spoken to us about it being the universal intelligence that's running our innate intelligence, yeah? And that when we give a life-giving chiropractic adjustment and remove that nervous system interference, it allows that clearer communication from brain to the rest of the body to facilitate the body's own healing. So when did God leave the building? When did that grand organized design in which we are designed to run, function, and heal, when did that stop? And that's part of it with the conditioning that you talk about. And it comes from, the lack of education. So, I'm trying to find this section in the book, but gosh, it's my favorite chapter. It just goes on and on and on.
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
we must educate.
That's the thing. Like, especially in the last, few years, people have seen how much we've been manipulated by media and by different people. And ever since the pandemic, it's enabled people to kind of sit back and reflect. One, because they had the bloody time. They were sitting at home.
Yeah.
But two,
too much time.
There's too much time. And there's just so much coming at us that we're like, hang on a second. If you guys have got it down and you know everything, how come people are still like dying, or people still getting sick, or, there's all these other repercussions. So, I think it's now the era of wellness where people are starting to question, the status quo and what we've been taught, because, even in schooling and things, we've been manipulated from day dot. And I remember when my daughter, she came to me and showed me a family tree, and who was on the top of the family tree? Mum and dad. And I was like, what the hell? You're on top of the family tree. Like, you're the most important person. Then your parents.
You know what that says to me? That's my other favorite chapter, which is the last one in that book, Connected, and it's all about perception. So perception is everything. There's some fun games. Actually, I just put it back. Now that you're talking in my language, like, you're literally preaching to the choir here. And I hope that I'm inspiring other people right now. But perception is everything. And there's the third eye there. There's some really awesome games that you can do, like, what do you see here? And then change your perception about what is that sees, or what anyone sees is going to be so different. But it's up to us to create our own conscious reality. And then what we do with whatever happens for us, not to us, is where we're going to feel most well.
Yeah. So you'd say that, it all starts at that sort of foundational and base level in the mindset with people. Like, so when they go through something like your book, they're starting to then understand perhaps areas and without telling them, but showing them and guiding them and shining a light on some of these areas that they haven't really asked questions about.
Yes, my friend, because, amen, as a certified food, lifestyle and wellness coach, which is what I then went on to study after becoming a qualified chiropractic assistant, I wanted to do more. I wanted to have nutrition. I wanted to have, some sort of qualification where I could help more. I also wanted to study to become a chiropractor, but I had a very small child, and as a single mum, it was just way too hard for me at that time to take on, a double science degree. But what we did was we had training where we would empower the person to make that decision for themselves. So my nutritional studies and training haven't allowed me to become prescriptive with my training. But as I start, and I could have done just another 2 years and I would have been prescribing diet. But as I started coaching people, I realized I don't want to prescribe a diet. I actually want people to figure it out for themselves.
Totally.
So, then a movement started happening where it was like eating, conscious eating, intuitive eating, and it's really important to be not only dynamic with your diet, but diverse. Sorry, not diverse with your diet, but dynamic. Let's just marinate on that for a little bit. Pardon the pun. When we are dynamic, it means that we acknowledge that we're never stuck, stagnant. We're constantly evolving, moving, because the diet that happened for us last week or last year isn't going to be the same way of eating that will work for us today, this year, next year. So the more in tune we get with ourselves, hence the title of the book, Connected, the more connected we are to our bodies through quality nutrition and awakening the nervous system, the more connected we get, the more that'll be a snowball effect, not only to ourselves, but to the entire community and world at large.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge topic within practice. One of the largest things that people walk into practices around the world and their issue is diet or is losing weight. And I find it really interesting because what's happened is you've got a real massive inverted marketing push from lots of different companies. So much so that they bastardize the meaning of the word. And so when people think diet, they think eating less food. They think eating food they don't like. They think,
not as in the derivative of the word dietary. That's the derivative of the word, right? Because I'm a lover of language. But the thing is, it doesn't even matter how good your dietary life is if you cannot assimilate the nutrition because your hormones are ruined, you've got stress as a result, or your nervous system is shot. You may as well be peeing the nutrition out.
That's right.
So one of my other favorite chapters in this book is called Nutrition is key, but assimilation of nutrition is crucial. And through a good working nervous system is how we can assimilate or absorb that nutrition. So these are some of the things, if we go to like how you and I are connected, are your patients ghosting you? Have they disappeared off the planet? Like, are they not returning your phone calls, text messages, and emails? And where they go, it's because we haven't inspired them enough. We haven't educated them enough to what chiropractic and wellness really is. That's when they start to become, and I've got goosebumps, and I always get goosebumps when truth hits, but when that person, not patient, because it means one who suffers, and we're not suffering when you're giving somebody life-giving care in chiropractic care, you're instilling wellness and vitality into their body so they're not suffering anymore. But when that person comes to you for care and you flick that inspiration switch in them, they become Pied Pipers. They end up referring, they end up educating for you because they're completely inspired.
Yeah, and they fully understand and they believe, then there's no issue with them becoming part of your marketing team to get people to roll into the practice, to have the same experience, because most people aren't assholes is what I've seen. And if they're having a really good experience, like, someone's able to walk again, or they've lost 10 kilos, or they're less stressed, or hey, they left that shitty job, and it's all because just they were getting adjusted in a proper schedule, and their vibration went up, their communication with themselves went up.
I think it's up to practice owners and people who work in practice to continue to be reminded of those miracles that do happen every day, because it's easy to get bogged down in their energy. And I remember I was in a practice with a person that complained of his shoulder, that pain that hadn't gone away. And the chiropractor at the time, at the first re-exam, said, what are the changes that have happened for you since been getting adjusted? And he was like, nothing, it still hasn't gone away, and I'm mad at you. And I came in here and I spent twice a week for 6 weeks and nothing's changed. And the EMG scan had shown that there was change. So the chiropractor at the time was like, this is the objective measure of health. Are you sure there's nothing? And he kept saying no, and he was angry. Turned to the son, the teenage son that had been coming in with his dad every single week, pick him up from school, bring him in, and then turned to him at the report of findings, or rather re-exam, and said, have you noticed any changes in dad since he's been getting adjusted? And the kid said, yeah, since he's been getting adjusted, my dad hasn't hit me or mum anymore.
Yeah, I've heard this, a couple of times in practice.
It's important to note that,
because it's so true, and kids don't
what
like.
we need to do is help them find, help them find what it is that the miracle is that's occurring, and how the body has, from a triage perspective, an order of what it wants to heal first. So let these stories light up your practice, if you like, and help those people find their testimonial just like that. I mean, I have my own personal testimonial, which is exactly why I'm passionate about chiropractic.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's got that story. I think in Australia, people are just scared to share some of their stories, because of different laws and things. But we definitely talk about it in the practice, and it needs to be talked about, even if it's internally with the team. You start off your week with a week huddle. and you go over all of the different changes that people have gone through and all the positive experiences they've achieved through coming into the practice, it just keeps everyone in the practice really, on purpose, basically. So,
the thing is, though, the biggest issue that I had in practice when I ran a practice for 11 years is that sometimes those stories aren't positive. Dr. Stephen, sometimes a person can feel more toxic or worse after the adjustment, as we all know. But educating the person in that release, revitalize, rebuild phase, that in that release phase, it could be so ugly. So having that front person, like on the phone, help to nurture them through that and be really trained in the language that they need to use, be careful. We all know we're supposed to say may help, but there's other language that needs to be used when a person perhaps wants to ghost you, or give them permission to have that sweaty palm conversation so they don't ghost you, by continuing to be a nurturing person of community and say, I understand how that must feel. Sometimes, in the detoxification process, or sometimes there's a heightened level of awareness that may occur when you're getting adjusted, because you are getting more connected from brain to body, whereas what does pharmaceutical teach us to do? And create a disconnect from brain to body. So when you're getting an adjustment, you're actually reconnecting, you're heightening the awareness. It's not like the pain necessarily got worse, but your perception or understanding of the pain is now heightened. That's the language that we need to use. So, if anyone wants any help from me in terms of training practice staff, team members, I call them chiropractic educators, not CAs, but rather CEs. I've run programs for chiropractors in Sydney through health space clinics with Dr. Nick Wood. When I fled Melbourne and the pandemic and I created a job for myself in essential services that nobody else could do, and it couldn't be done online. And then, so I worked for health space clinics, which was amazing as well, to be able to train the new grads as well and give them, or even just that weren't new grads, but give them some inspiration and knowledge.
Yeah, totally. I think that, like going back to what you were saying, that we've been educated that, through the medical fraternity, that, it's all about comfort, and I think people are looking for that comfort, but comfort is death and challenge is growth. And so anytime you're going through this, you're going to have, peaks and troughs on your journey of gaining health. There's no linear process there. And I remember when I started doing hot yoga, and after a couple of weeks of, doing hot yoga, my knees were like, I don't even know how I could just stay standing through the whole thing. Like I had to stop and relax. And it was all the years of squatting, 300 kilos of powerlifting that had destroyed my knees, and I didn't even know. Right. And then after that, all of a sudden, after a couple of weeks, everything starts to free up. I'm like, holy shit, I can actually do things I haven't been able to do for a long time. So, and that's the process. And people, I think that because they've been brainwashed and manipulated, that it's just about comfort and that's it. That's like saying I'm going to go to the gym, lose 10 kilos, put on some muscle and not have to, have any sort of muscle soreness or anything and be challenged.
I would rather call it conditioned as opposed to brainwashed, and the other word that you use, because I'm a lover of language and I love NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and so that I can be less divisive in my education and storytelling, I think it's really important that we all learn how to choose words that aren't divisive, because being conditioned, I think, has a little bit of a, like, don't blame me, don't blame them, but let's blame the system. And when we look at the system to blame, it's easier to accept change and responsibility. So yes, we're being conditioned for sure. And I call that, discomfort, divine discomfort. And the word to understand that divine discomfort will fire that arrow backwards and then fire it forwards. I mean, I'm constantly in divine discomfort. I just went to a chiropractor today here in LA. He has his own emotional trauma release technique that he calls. It's probably stemmed a little bit from NET, a little bit from AK, and then he's very diversified in all of his techniques. But yeah, it was very uncomfortable today. And there were times, even though I've been getting adjusted for weekly, fortnightly, no matter where I am in the world for over 25 years, which is probably the reason why I look so young for my age. I'm almost 50.
Of course.
I still enter, I need to do the work. And I said to him, we need to do this so that I can become healthier, so that I can then turn other people on to what's possible. So we did the work, and even today, after 25 years or whatever it's been, I'm like, oh, fuck, is this really good for me? And it's only a human response. So if we can just remember, how that might feel by even people in practice, like chiropractic doctors, if they can continue to do that healing work for themselves, because your practice is only a reflection. You are a reflection of your practice. Practice is a reflection of you. You've got to continue doing the work too. And so often we're like, oh, I haven't been adjusted for a month, or, I'll be fine. And no, you've got to do the work constantly.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think that.
When was your last adjustment? Is that why you're hesitating?
Like yesterday.
Oh, good. Good.
So I had a friend come over. I've got a table in the back of the house as well, as as practices all around that I go to. But yeah, no, it's really important that as a doc, you can have these experiences. And most of the docs that are quite strong philosophically have had a really, big experience. And that's what's led them to become a chiropractor. You don't just wake up one day and go, oh, I'm going to be a chiropractor. It's like, what the hell?
You do, but then you don't last very long.
No, you don't.
Realize it's a misunderstood profession in the world. But yeah, this exactly what you're saying, Dr. Stephen, is make sure that you're having those experiences too, so that you can have more empathy and act with more understanding and compassion when you're caring for others. It's the only way. Otherwise, you can hardly communicate on their level. You can't understand, and you just get frustrated when they don't return your phone calls. And sometimes, you can't. And I want to go back to that, because that's one of my favourite things to do, is to convert cancellations into reschedules. But let's go back to that, because it's the most valuable thing in practice, because you know that when they show up, they get the results. And as you said in your email, it's why is your new patient ghosting you? So you really need a team that knows how to educate. You need to gift them with, education, whether it's my book, pardon the plug, but like, I don't make enough money on this book anyway. I get them printed in Australia, not China. But, it's really important. I spent, hours and 3 years and then another 2 years revising it, and to make sure that you have a tool so that people can understand, because you won't have, I got off on every person. I was like, you're not coming in. Do you know what I mean? That was my subtext. I never said that to them, but I was so empathetic and understanding, and I still am, and so patient and so educative, that they were like, oh, wow, okay, or maybe I will just keep it, or can I come in a little bit later while I sleep a bit more? Sure. And this is the thing that we need to do, that when we start to smell the yellow flags or the orange flags before they become red flags, that we nurture them so that they feel safe to open up to us and really communicate what they're perhaps scared to communicate to you. I don't want to come in because I don't want to make anyone else sick. That's a common thing that people say, is like, oh, we're fine. And then talk about the germ theory versus the terrain theory, or go, we have protocol in place for that, or whatever it is that feels comfortable to you, to help them to understand that when they come in while they're feeling shit, that this is the one thing that's going to help them to feel better, by taking pressure off the nervous system, that then sends a better communication pathway to the immune system, because the nervous system controls every system in the body. Just even sharing that little bit of information is so empowering.
Yeah, totally. I think, there's a definite hole and lack of training within all chiropractic practices. And, it goes back to this whole thing. Like, if you're really passionate and you understand that you're saving lives by doing what you're doing, then why the hell would you not work that extra, go that extra mile, or work that extra hour, or do whatever you need to do, or pick up the phone and call some of these people and talk to them, and make sure that they're getting exactly what they need. And the other thing that I do see is that a lot of them are empathetic and caring to the point where they then are trying to have a hairdresser conversation, versus them kind of being able to just be direct and kick them,
right,
slap them out of whatever they're in, to go, hey, like, this is something you need to do. Like, this is going to help you a lot more than that other shit. You can spend an hour and a half.
Well, I
watching
wouldn't even say
Netflix.
that. I wouldn't even say it's something you need to do, because nobody needs to or
No,
should
they don't
or
need to,
anything.
but
Yeah.
they should want to.
Yeah, I know, but then I guess this is why I find a lot of chiropractors do have difficulty in communicating, because they can't find the right words. That, that there's so much fear in how we communicate. But when we start talking often and create new habits with our language, then it just becomes normal, if you like. So, develop phrases that you, I guess, are helping that person to feel coached, to feel supported. And that's what I do as a coach, so that they know that I've got their back and that I'm going to hold them for accountability, and then express how their body works and how I'd love to see that happen for them is usually enough, because we're too used to being spoken the other way. If you don't do this, this is going to happen, or you must do that. So a lot of people who are prescriptive in their training, like, this is what you got to do. You got to do it. You got to stick to it. It doesn't work. It's the Band-Aid effect. Once the program's finished, it's done.
No, no
so
one
this
likes
is
being
why
told. No one likes
being
told.
told, but
No.
also we don't want to put like expectations, if you like not to. This is what. As soon as you say that, and I used to do it naively in practice every now and again. You're going to start to feel this, and you're going to start to feel that, until one day somebody was really pissed off with me. Don't tell me what I'm going to feel. So I learned from a lot of mistakes, and I became, an exceptional communicator. But, some of the language that you can use is, what I would love to see for you is what we've seen before, or this is how the body functions. And, it makes sense to me that this is what may occur once the healing process begins, or once we take pressure off that nervous system. That sort of stuff, and then this is what we were talking about before, Dr. Stephen, they start to join the dots. They're like, oh shit, why wouldn't I want to come in once a week for the rest of my life? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. They definitely, like, it's about giving people, and the words we use are really, really important. They're made up of letters, which are symbols that can mean something completely different. Like, one thing is, if you look at a swastika nowadays, it's like, oh shit, you think of Nazi Germany, you think of negative stuff. 100 years ago, that was a symbol of gratitude. So these things are really important, and they, the words we use are definitely extremely important, in that could be the difference between telling them and pushing them away versus having them come to you and be guided, so that they can learn and they can become more aware of themselves.
And once again, that comes back to doing the work. That comes back to the healer doing the work on themselves, because when you are communicating in a less than ideal fashion, and I'm not saying it's a wrong fashion, but there could be a better way, it's because something's triggered within that person on how they're communicating with others. And so it's a constant journey of doing the work. Like, we'll all make mistakes, but as long as you commit to finding like where that communication style came from, with things like AK, NET, psychology, yoga, whatever floats your boat, but commit to that, because then it comes from intention, and with pure intention, the right words will always come out.
Always.
Yeah.
And I see that as what we do. Like, we're clearing people's purpose up and intention. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come back to me and say, hey, I've just left my wife of 20 years. I'm like, whoa, I didn't say nothing. That wasn't my... But they'd been in this relationship, or a chick, whatever. They'd been in this relationship, and they'd just been sort of, dealing with it. I think that that's okay. That's acceptable. They start getting adjusted, and all of a sudden they just decide to do something different and become more aware of what they really want, or even, I remember this one patient, I'd gone away for 4 weeks. She'd just started for a couple of months with us. I came back after 4 weeks. She lost 15 kilos. I was like, what the hell happened? She's like, I just started making better choices since, being adjusted, 2-3 times a week. I just started making better choices. I've been going for walks, choosing different foods. Literally, she looked like a different person when I came back. And I was like,
well, so did I. And that's what turned me on to chiropractic. I had sciatica, didn't know it was sciatica, had an adjustment, went to the bathroom, didn't come out for about half an hour. Yeah. And from that moment on, because same nerves that go down the leg also go to the digestive system, they branch off there. Then my elimination was healthier after being constipated for years and years and years. And over about 3 to 6 months, I lost 10 kilos. So,
Amazing.
yeah, I didn't make any changes to food. In fact, I was exercising even less. So just through a better working nervous system that is designed to function optimally. If we give it the right environment, our body can heal, but we have to give it that right environment. But do you know what? I actually need to wrap this up because we are in 40-degree heat and I don't have air conditioning in this place. And I'm sweating, it's dripping. Can you see?
So tell me, how does someone reach out to you for help, whether it's a practice owner or whether it's anyone that's on that sort of journey to wellness? How do they reach out to you?
Pretty much 2 places. On my website, andileu.com, ANDILEW.com. And you can send me an email from there. And I've also got coaching on my page. You can buy my books from there. Or I'm like on Instagram a lot of the time, and it's where I love to communicate chiropractors and wellness messages or just my life with my son. And that's ANDI.LEW. If you love to use Instagram, I'd love to connect with you there.
Awesome. Loved having you on. We might have you on at some other stage, who knows? But it's been a good chat. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for emailing me and asking where your patients went.
All good. See you, Andy.